Good evening. Good evening and welcome to the Year 7 2018 Parent Information Night. A particular welcome to our graduating class of 2023. My name is Mitchell Kelly and I am the college captain for next year. I'm a boarder from Wagga Wagga, New South Wales, and have been here since Year 7. I particularly like playing sports and making first grade rugby union and also playing league. I now call Ben Kelly and Lindsay Munro, who will be leading us in Welcome to Country and prayer this evening.
We pause to remember the uniqueness of this place. We honour and respect the generations of the thorough people who held this land in the dreaming. In the name of the Father, Son and Holy Spirit. Amen.
Lord, you consistently challenge us to look after the little ones you place in our care. Gift us with your grace so that we may build a little corner of the kingdom of God in our school. May our new students be warmly received into the community and experience the reality and presence and simplicity. May they develop an understanding of Mary and a love of work. May our new families feel welcome and experience the family spirit which is important to us. We make this prayer in your name. Amen. St. Martin and Champagne, pray for us. Mary, our good mother, pray for us. And let us always remember to pray for one another. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you, Ben and Lindsay. To open the evening, I welcome back John Demek O'Connell. Those present at our information night in February would have heard of John's first few weeks. To hear how his progress has been, please welcome John.
Good evening, Mr. Miller, staff, parents, current and future students of St. Gregory's College. My name is John Demek O'Connell and I'm a Year 7 student here at St. Greg's. I've been asked to talk briefly tonight about my first year here and the experience I've had. I remember my first few days here. I felt completely overwhelmed. I didn't know anybody and got lost on my way to classes. I very quickly learned that if I had a problem or a question, that not only could I go to members of staff, which would expect to be able to, but more importantly, my schoolmates were always there for me. If you get lost on your way somewhere, another student will point you in the right direction. If you're on your own in your playground, someone will come up to you and include you in whatever they're doing. St. Greg's is just that sort of place. This school has so many opportunities. I hardly know where to start in telling you what I've been able to do this year. Very early on in the year, I took part in the Gordon Feder Place public speaking competition, in which, against some very stiff competition, I placed first. As a result of that, I became part of the Year 7 debating team, competing on Fridays, being given a topic, planning arguments and rebuttals with my teammates. It really taught me to think everything through clearly. I've also been a part in other public speaking competitions. Miss Santos can be very persuasive at some times. I've represented the school in cross-country, swimming and soccer. The last two of those sports have involved travelling all over Sydney and other parts of the state, as has the public speaking. I also was a part of the college musical, The Beauty and the Beast, a member of Ensemble. It was an amazing experience. Lots of cool things happened in our first year. One of the ones I was looking forward to was getting my laptop. That was brilliant. One of the things I really come to appreciate is how I've been able not only to establish new friendships, but to develop these friendships in the course of throughout the regular school routine, as well as through co-curricular activities. Year 7 camp was something I was really enjoyed. It was a wonderful experience to be able to enjoy activities with my mates in a different environment. The school works hard to involve our families as well. There was the Mums and Sons Day on Mother's Day, where we had breakfast with our mums, helped them out and showed them around the school. Luckily, I knew my way around then, so I didn't get mum lost. There's also the trivia night for us boys and our dads, where we try to outsmart each other. Then there's the schoolwork side of things. In Year 6, you think there's so much homework, but then there's even more in Year 7. But it's totally worth it, because there are so many new subjects to discover and enjoy. Mostly, I've been able to begin about learning cattle and livestock, something I didn't really know about anything before I came here. I don't regret for a second my decision to come into St. Gregory's College. Each of you will be starting here next year, and will have your own reason for doing so. Maybe your father was a Greg's boy, or maybe your brother attends. It could be that you are talented at sports, and you've heard about the school's successful sporting reputation. Or perhaps you're excited about the academic opportunities at your fingertips. It doesn't really matter why you are coming here. What matters is you are. Our headmaster, Mr. Miller, said recently that our altitude is determined by our attitude, meaning that how we succeed and how far we can go in our education is entirely up to us. Work hard, never give up, and take full advantage of the opportunities on offer here, and you'll find that your success will exceed your expectations. I'd like to finish off tonight with another saying that Mr. Miller is fond of. We as students are a blank canvas. I would like to expand upon that slightly, however. We are a blank canvas, but we don't have to fill the canvas in our first year. The first brushstrokes have been made, but there is plenty of space left. As we go through school, our decisions will add colour, shade, and shapes, making it more complex as the years pass. We have our whole school lives to fill up the canvas. Even Michelangelo took years to paint the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel and modified his ideas occasionally. Thank you.
Thank you, John. It certainly sounds like you've had a great year. I now invite Mr. Miller to the lectern.
Thanks, Mitch. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and you're most welcome being here tonight. Just like to say thank you for John for coming out and giving that speech tonight. It's very difficult for a young man to come out here and speak in front of such a large number. But I didn't realise how much he does actually listen to me. The fact that he pointed out two things that I've been speaking about recently is very encouraging to know. And I'll come back to you, gentlemen, with something I'm going to talk to you about shortly as well. But just for a couple of housekeeping things, I suppose, looking at tomorrow, you come in here for an orientation day. Some of you will come by yourselves, and I think you're very brave to do that. But you will be the only young men here tomorrow. The rest of the school are not here. We'll have our big brothers here, they're Year 11 boys, and their job tomorrow is to make sure that you are well looked after and made to feel very comfortable and very secure. Some of you no doubt would be thinking about the exam, whether it's maths or English, and that might be a bit of a worry for you. But seriously, it's about coming along, just sitting down, doing those exams, doing the best you can with them, and then we look at the results later, so it's really nothing to do with you as far as that goes. After those exams are over, the Year 11 big brothers, they will look after you and do some activities with you. They'll look after you for lunch, then they'll bring you back here at the end of the day. So it's all about making you feel comfortable, happy and safe here tomorrow. So I wouldn't be too worried about it, and I definitely wouldn't get stressed about it. What will happen in the morning is that parents will drop off and will say to you, do you want to drop off or do you want to stay? If you stay, we just meet out in the front of the hall. Eventually we take the boys in about 8:30 and I'll say a few words to parents, and then we'll meet you again at 2:30 when you come to pick them up. That's the other end of the day. Just on the parent side of life, many would know we have parent forums and they're very important for us, and we encourage people to become part of those. They're just forums where we sit around and we talk about what happens at the school, and parents are allowed to ask questions at the end of the sessions, and usually they only go for about an hour and people can get up and walk out if they like, but they do tend to stay on. We can get up to 2 hours. Night times they can go for a bit longer than that at times. But once again, it's about making parents feel welcome and making them feel part of the place. As many of you would know, we're starting a junior school next year, the K to 6, and with that recently we invited the parents in to talk about reports, because I thought they should have a say in what's going to go on them. And when we first put it out, we had 2 parents coming, and I said to Joel Weeks, the head of the junior school, we'll just have a cup of coffee with the parents in my office. We've got the 2 of them. And by the time we put out a reminder email, we actually had 90 turn up. And it started at 6 o'clock and they were still here at 8:30. not necessarily talking about reports, but the fact that they felt so comfortable and were so enthusiastic about it was a great thing to see. So as far as parents go, you're most welcome here. Anything we put on, I would encourage you to come and be part of it. The more involved you get in the community, the better you will feel about it, and also your sons will feel very confident about it as well. And I'll introduce you to Mrs. Dean later. She's the parent liaison, and she'll be here to talk to you and guide you through those sorts of things. With the first day next year, just so you're aware of it, the boys will come. That we have an opening assembly, and that starts at 8:30, and we bring everyone into the hall. I introduce new staff on the stage so everyone can get to see them without having to turn around and look where they are. And then we put the years 8 to 12 off to class after that assembly, and we keep the year 7 and any other new students to the college. And we welcome each boy individually. So each boy would come up, shake my hand, he would get a certificate, he would meet the school captain, he'd be given his diary at that stage as well. Now, all of that is live streamed because we also have boarding families. They usually come up on a Sunday, so they're up here 2 days beforehand, and they can't be here and stay for the extra day. So we live stream everything that's in this hall. And so if parents are at work and they can't see it, it's an option for them to see their son come up and be on show in front of everyone. There was one boarding family recently where the mother had watched it from Harden, and unfortunately we had a technical glitch just when her son came. We got the other 99 right, but it was just on that particular one, which was unfortunate. But we do that so parents can actually see what's going on. So what we will do is we will welcome them all, and then at the end of that we'll send them off with the Year 7 teachers. But I'll invite parents into the Hermitage room over there, where we'll invite you in for a cup of coffee, and also we'll take questions, because I'm sure you will have questions by that stage also. And then we also offer a tour of the college, and that is the morning. In the afternoon, the boys are dismissed at 2:30, the Year 7s, just to give them a head start on the rest of the school. And parents tend to come along and pick them up. If they're on the buses, it's not such a problem. But I think for the first day, parents are very keen to make sure the son's all right at the end of the day, and they're still going to receive him and take him home. So they tend to line up here very early, and the line can be out the front gate. So I would suggest, as far as that goes, get here early, whether you're dropping off or picking up, especially that first week. After the first week's finished, you're usually over that by that stage, and the buses are a good alternative for them. So bear those sorts of things in mind. So that's just the start. Other people will talk about other things for you. Gentlemen, I just want to tell you a story. And it's one I told the other night, and a number of parents came to me after it and were asking me more questions about it because they were taken by it. And I'll ask you gentlemen tomorrow what the story was about, because there's a point to it. There was a young girl who was born to a family, and she was one of 22. I think a big family in Campbelltown, 6, but 22 is really going out there. And she was number 20. She was born back in 1940, and she had every illness under the sun. She had chickenpox, she had the measles, she had pneumonia as well. Obviously, going through her young days, she was very sick. But she eventually got to a stage where they noticed her leg wasn't forming well and her foot was a bit deformed, and she got a prognosis on that, and it turned out she had polio. So they had to put this girl in braces, and she was thinking this was what she was going to have to do for the rest of her life. What the mother did, she found a hospital that could actually do something about the polio, and they told her if they brought the young lady to the hospital, they could work on her through physio, and they could try and get her to walk. This mother had to drive 50 k's to get there and 50 k's to come back, and she didn't have any money because it was a very low socio-economic area. She used to take the girl up to the hospital, and the hospital staff felt sorry for her, and they showed her what she had to do to avoid her coming up to the hospital all the time. So the mother worked with the girl and massaged the legs on a regular basis, and eventually she was able to take the braces off and she was able to walk. So by the time she was 12, she actually got rid of the braces and started to walk. And she had a sister who played basketball, so she decided she wanted to go to the school and join the basketball team. She trained and trained very hard, doing the running up and down, doing the physical fitness to it. But she never got on the court to play. She sat on the bench for 3 years. Then all of a sudden she made it in the 4th year. She got on the court. There happened to be a coach there from the athletic team for the USA, and he saw her run and sprint on the court, and he realised she had a lot of talent. He took her under her wing, and when she was 16, she ended up coming to Melbourne to the Olympic Games, 1956, and she ended up winning a gold medal in the relay. She came home from that feeling very good about life, and she committed herself to going to the next Olympics. 1960, she went to Rome, and she was the first woman to win 3 gold medals, the 100, the 200, and the relay. When you reflect on that story of that lady, the fact that she came from an upbringing that was so hard, and she had to go through the pain barriers to achieve what she did. John mentioned about attitude, and attitude's a very big thing for you here at St Greg's. You've got to have the right attitude, you've got to decide what you want to do and what you want to get out of being here at St Greg's. As John said, your attitude will determine your altitude. In other words, how far you're going to go. Wilma Rudolph was committed to what she was doing as far as athletics went. She wanted to get that gold medal, and she knew she had to put the effort in. So she had the attitude, she was committed, and she put the effort in. And it's the same for you coming here to St Greg's. You've got to have the attitude, the right attitude, and you can do anything if you have it. Just be committed to what you're going to do. In other words, make every bit here at St Greg's a success, and you put the effort in. And if I see that effort, you'll get a letter from me telling me how good you are. So gentlemen, when I see you tomorrow, I want to know all about that story. I want to know the moral behind the story. And it's all about attitude, commitment, and effort. Think about it.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. I now invite Mrs. Keegan, our Director of Studies, followed by Mrs. Miller, our Director of Teaching and Learning, to give you a snapshot of what academic life here at the college.
Thank you, Mitchell, and good evening, everyone. And I'd also like to welcome you to the college tonight. My job is to speak briefly tonight about the curriculum offerings over the next couple of years, and my colleague Louise Miller will talk to you about some of our plans for the next couple of years as well with regard to teaching and learning. Much of the curriculum in Stage 4, which makes up years 7 and 8, is similar to the curriculum that you've been studying in primary school. So things such as religion, English, maths, science, personal development, health and PE will be studied throughout the year next year and all the way through to year 10, in some cases all the way through to year 12. At our school, we actually study history and geography in 6-month blocks. So your son may do history in the first half of the year, followed by geography in the second half of the year, or vice versa. We have a similar approach to art and music. So some of the boys will study visual arts in the first 2 terms, and some of the boys will study music, and then we will swap over. Mandatory tech is also studied throughout the year, with a chance to focus on different things. So we endeavour to make sure that all of the boys get a chance to look at the farm and to work on the farm, and to also work in rooms like the woodwork room and the metalwork room. When your son moves into Year 8, the curriculum structure will be very similar to that, but with the addition of the study of a language. So the Board of Studies, or NESA as it's now called, requires us to study languages for 100 hours, and the language that we offer here at St Greg's is Italian. You may also be aware from the information that the college has sent you so far that we also have a one-to-one laptop program. So that laptop will be issued at the beginning of next year. Obviously, many of our programs are based on the use of those laptops, and the communication and information technology skills are integrated throughout various parts of the curriculum. Very exciting for us, this year we opened our new Marion Centre, which is our new learning centre, and that has become very much a hub of learning across many fields. One of the questions that I'm most often asked is about the class structure of Year 7. So next year in Year 7, we will have 7 classes. There will be an A class in English, Mathematics, Science and HSIE, and that class will be formed based on the results of the testing tomorrow. There will also be a learning support class for those who struggle a little bit, and there will be 5 mixed ability classes. So 7A will be our top class, 7G will be our learning support class, and B, C, D, E and F will be all mixed ability classes, so exactly the same. We will of course reassess any placements at the end of semester 1. Occasionally students have, they're nervous tomorrow or they don't do their best, but they may shine when they get to school in Year 7, so we certainly look at that. But we try not to make too many changes to their classes until the second semester. One of the things that John mentioned was homework, and that can be a bone of contention for some students, and it does take a little bit of getting used to. It is very different from primary school. Our current structure is that on Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday we have 5 lessons in each of those days, so that means the boys could potentially have homework for 5 areas. We do guide our staff to keep in mind that the boys are new to this kind of homework, and some of them are very nervous about it, and we try not to overload them too much. If you do feel that your son is overloaded with homework, it's always very important to get in contact with his homeroom teacher, either via the diary or by email, or in contact with the classroom teacher if you're concerned about the amount of homework. It's really important that we communicate together so that we can clear up any problems that arise. We will work with the boys next year. Mr. Wilson and his team will work with them in terms of recording homework and planning homework. We also have a study skills program that we run here at the college. So just a bit of an advertisement, there will be a parent and student study skills evening on the 13th of February, and so that will be a chance to have a look together at the type of planning that's needed for high school. One of the other really important things that we do at St Greg's is we have a school-based reading program called BRAG, Boys Read at Greg's, and that cycles through different lessons throughout the week. So once again, Mr. Wilson and his team will fill you in on all of the details for that. I will be around at the end of the evening if you have any questions, but I'm now going to hand over to my colleague Louise Miller. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Keegan, and good evening, everyone. And thank you for the lovely chats that I've already had with some fine young gentlemen tonight. It's a pleasure to meet you, and I look forward to working with you over the next 6 years, which is very exciting. I'd like to talk to you tonight about being a good learner. And I guess a lot of you would already know what type of a learner you are in some ways. You've already had a test or an assessment, and that might have given you not just a mark, but it might have given you some information about how you respond in those situations. You might know that you prepare really well. You might know that you leave things till the last minute. You might know that you use all of the resources that you have to help you prepare. So what I'd like to challenge you as you head into Year 7 to do is to start considering what type of learner you would like to be, what type of learner you need to be. I have up here the results. It doesn't look like results of a survey, but it is. With some Year 11 students, 93 of them I did a bit of a survey about what type of learning they prefer. And I won't go into what each of the little codes are there, but the basic codes were that they chose either that they preferred teacher-led learning, so they loved it when the teacher wrote notes on the board, or they loved it when the teacher did a PowerPoint and they copied the notes off the PowerPoint. And other ones were me-related, student-related, the ones where I learn best when the teacher gives me an idea and I run away and research it, that sort of thing. And what was very interesting to me, the bigger ones that came up were 2 teacher-led choices, okay, two choices that were about what the teacher does in the classroom. And most of our students chose that they loved when the teacher wrote notes on the board and they copied them, or they loved when the PowerPoint was put up and they copied PowerPoints. And I must say that that's my preferred method of learning, and I think that's probably a lot of our parents' preferred method of learning. And what I'd like to challenge our young men here for next year and for the next 6 years is to think about how you can actually change that paradigm, because that's probably not the method of learning that's going to work for you. Times have changed so much so rapidly that already what the Year 11s have preferred is probably not what you're going to be doing when you head into high school. And I'd say that in primary school at the moment, I doubt that you've been sitting in class copying notes from the board or from a PowerPoint. That's not the way that tends to work in primary school. I'd say you would have done a lot of collaboration with your friends, working in groups. You would have done a lot of talking. You would have been creative. And those are the types of skills that I would like us to start considering for the next 6 years of schooling. So we need to be good learners for the 21st century. And that means we're preparing not just to pass the next test. We're not just preparing for that final test all the way at the end of Year 12. We're preparing for, yes, university, we're preparing for the workplace, but really we're preparing to be good learners for the rest of our lives. And part of that is that we have to have things called 21st century learning skills. So have a look at that list there for some of you. Are you a curious learner? Are you a creative learner? Do you reflect on what you've learned? Do you collaborate well? Some of us hate I hate group work. I'm not good at it. But that's actually one of the things that our workplaces and our universities are asking us to do nowadays. And so, you know, the type of world that we live in, it's really important when we're so disconnected on our iPhones and, you know, off in corners, collaboration is actually becoming increasingly important. So in order to develop those skills, we've probably always got to be thinking about when we learn new things, it's kind of like entering a little bit of a pit. And probably some of you in primary school have come across this idea before of the learning pit. And you can see that this is a pretty representation of it, but it's showing you what it's like to learn new things. And when we learn new things, there's an easy way to learn it, which is simply to get the answer from someone. Okay, that's the shortcut. But what you miss is the bit in the middle, when you have to struggle to learn something. And I'd like to encourage anyone here who's a struggler, you know, it's through the struggle that you actually learn. So when you enter the learning pit, you have to demonstrate qualities of persistence. You have to become resilient when you're faced with problems that you don't know the answer to. You have to ask yourself, what resources can I draw on to help me solve this problem? And when you're at the bottom of the pit and you're feeling in the pits, right, you might think there's nowhere to go, this problem is unsolvable. But through the struggle, through looking at all of the resources around you, from seeking new information, from trying different things, eventually you can come to some sort of solution. And that struggle is really important to help us develop those learning skills that we're going to need for the future. So this is all to do with a growth mindset, which I think you've all come across in primary school, or a lot of you have come across in primary school. And I think as parents, this is really good news for us, this idea called a growth mindset, because what it suggests is that our intelligence and our talent and our skills are not fixed, okay? That's great news, because wherever we're at the moment, we don't have to be there for too long. We can work hard and persist at something, and we can become better at it. Lots of us, myself included sometimes, have got this thing called a fixed mindset, and it's where we just want someone to tell us the answer. Even if we're someone who comes first in everything, it means that if we're not going to come first in something, sometimes we don't even give it a go. That would be a fixed mindset. Sometimes it's just believing that you're too stupid to understand something. But that's not what a growth mindset tells us. A growth mindset tells us that we just haven't got the answer yet. So I would like everyone here to flip the dialogue in their head to one where everybody can succeed eventually, but that you really need to try. You need to work hard. You need to have that attitude of commitment that Mr. Miller talked about. And so we have a range of opportunities at St Greg's. I'm focused on those sort of academic learning opportunities, but they all go together, because these opportunities that we have at St Greg's for success, not only in the academic sphere, they in reality relate to this idea of a growth mindset. In order to succeed in any of those areas, we need to have a growth mindset, and we need to try and develop those 21st century learning skills: curiosity, creativity, collaboration, flexibility, persistence, and that R word, resilience, that we hear about a lot. So I look forward to working with all of you in future years, and I would like for each of you, when you finish Year 12, to be able to say that you truly have reaped what you have sown since you began right there in Year 7. So that's my challenge to you, is to think about what type of a learner you're going to be and what type of a learner you need to be for success in a whole range of things. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mrs. Keegan and Mrs. Miller. One of the unique opportunities provided to students at St Greg's is that of boarding. To give a brief overview of their time here in boarding, please welcome Ben Kelly from Wagga and Baden Moran from Parkes.
Good evening, Mr. Miller, staff, parents and future students of St Gregory's College. My name is Ben Kelly. I'm from Wagga Wagga. I've been enrolled here at the college for 4 terms now and have been in the boarding school as a full-time boarder. Many of my family members have been in this school, and ever since I visited the school at a young age, I've always imagined myself a St Greg's boy. I come from a small public school in Wagga with only 300 students and 1 set of laptops to share among everyone. The facilities and size of this school have always amazed me whenever I see them, with technology in the classrooms making it a much easier environment to learn in. Due to this, I've improved academically, as well as through the efforts of many hard-working and amazing teachers. Being a boarder, there are many highs and lows when you first come into the new structure. Boarding can be hard at times because of the absence of family and trying to live with new people from different backgrounds. The routines and boarding guidelines are hard to adapt to, but have made me a more independent person as the year progressed. On the other side, boarding has many advantages, such as meeting new friends and forming lifelong relationships. The study and living routine have helped me in many ways. I've also had many sporting opportunities here that I would not have experienced at home. St Greg's is an amazing school, day boy or boarder, so I hope you can enjoy your first year at school as much as I did. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Miller, staff and parents of the graduating class of 2023. My name is Baden Moran and I come from Parkes. I started in Year 7 this year as a St Greg's boarder. St Greg's has opened many co-curricular and academic opportunities for me, which I have taken advantage of, some including MCS Rugby League, MCS Touch Footy, ISA Rugby Union, saying a speech for the St Greg's Sports Dinner and going to Friday morning and Sunday evening Mass. All of these opportunities I have taken, I would never be able to get back home. I came from a school of only 250, with not many people, facilities or opportunities. Therefore, when I stepped in the foot of St Greg's, it blew me away. From that moment on, I always knew that I wanted to become a boarder, especially when they brought in the new learning centre this year. Being a boarder is great, but there are always some difficulties. One being not seeing your family much, as I have 3 brothers that run amok back home and it's hard for me not to notice them. Being a proud Indigenous man at St Greg's has also given me the opportunity to explore my culture. It's given me many opportunities to reconnect with the spiritual side here at the college, also learning about my heritage and lost language rediscovered. Congratulations on making your son to come to St Greg's, and I hope he enjoys his first year as much as I did. I look forward to meeting him in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben and Baden. It's great to hear you both having such a good time. I now invite Mr. Graham, our Acting Deputy Headmaster, followed by Mr. Wilson, our Year 7 Coordinator, to discuss partial care, uniforms, Year 7 Orientation Day and First Day 2018.
Before I start, on the screen there is information if you would like to talk to Ms Stott or Mr Spencer about boarding, or contact her at a later date. Good evening, parents and gentlemen. The well-being and partial care of your boys is fundamental to our mission. Their safety comes first and foremost. Be assured that we take their safety seriously. Our partial care program is grounded in the gospel values. Some of those values are listed on the slide. Dignity of the individual, respect for self and others, and forgiveness. Our aim with the partial care program is to walk together on the journey over the 6 years with you all, leading, leaning, at times pushing, at times catching, following and walking beside your boys as they move from young boys and fine young men with strong minds and gentle hearts. The partial care program is strategic in planning and implementation. It targets different things and has different themes as boys develop from Year 7 to Year 12. Listed on the slide are a few of the structures that we have in place. Obviously there are more details in the years to follow, but to highlight a few, we start with our Friday morning Mass, a curricular programs with numerous opportunities, from debating, public speaking, chess, the ag programs, and of course all the sporting programs. Our pastoral care lessons on a Friday, which pick up on those themes. The Year 7 camp, such an important stage in getting all the boys in front of us tonight together in their groups. Our student services team, the one-stop shop for boys, that place where boys with any questions can go to ask and get help. Our merit system and the all-important student diary, one of the main communication channels we have. I now wish to spend a moment showcasing the uniform the boys are expected to wear proudly. Straight from Flemington on Tuesday, we have 4 models. To begin with, Jessie Lamont in our summer school uniform. Next is Thomas Fletcher in the summer sport uniform. They are worn in terms 1 and 4 with the guidelines no hat, no play. Our winter uniform, direct from our college shop upstairs, is worn by Jamie Nicholson, wearing the traditional college blazer that is worn in terms 2 and 3. And finally, Clancy Knott, showcasing our winter sport uniform. Please, a round of applause for our boys. Many hours of practice there. Our hair policy. There is an expectation that boys are well groomed and their haircuts do not require a second look. What's a second look? A second look, undercuts, steps, more steps than the Opera House, long fringes, different colours. They're all things that get a second look. If they require a second look, we've got an issue. Please, boys, don't worry about making any changes tonight. You're not going to be sent home tomorrow. There's not be any issues tomorrow. If any parents have any questions about what is appropriate, what's not appropriate, please see me today or tonight or tomorrow. We can make some adjustments there. Finally, from me, at the conclusion of the night, there are some information packs for families at the back of the room, and I have staff and boys to assist. That information packs include things like transport, house groups and other important information that you require to so that your boys can transition easy next year. I now invite Mr Wilson, who is our Year 7 Coordinator for 2018. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Graham. Good evening, everyone. I have just a few short slides to work through. And the first slide looks at the schedule for tomorrow. So the arrival time tomorrow is between 8 and 8:30 a.m. On arrival, if you're staying with your son, you'll be directed to park down at the farm, which is at the back of the hall. If you prefer to drop and run, that will happen just outside the hall at the bus bay. Boys will be met on the stairs at the back of the hall. They'll be addressed by myself and Mr Miller before being invited inside in alphabetical order, where they'll be sitting a series of short exams. At the conclusion of the maths and English exams, the boys will enjoy a tour of the school led by one of our big brothers, our senior leaders for 2018. The tour will return them to the hall, where they will participate in some activities run by the PDHP department before being farewelled by Mr Miller and myself at 2:30. Please remember to bring a bottle of water, a hat, a blue or a black pen. Recess and lunch will be provided. On the first day, 2018, some of this you have heard before, but just to remind you, the boarders among us will arrive in the boarding houses at 1 p.m. on Sunday the 28th of January. The rest of Year 7 will join them at 8 a.m. on Tuesday the 30th. All boys will meet at the flagpoles, which is behind us directly in front of reception. It is there they'll be allocated homerooms. They'll enter their first assembly in those homeroom groups. They'll spend most of the day in orientation with their homeroom group, receiving book packs, computer logins and lockers. They'll finish the day spending time with their big brothers before being picked up at 2:15 by parents from the turning circle behind the chapel. The following day they will finish at 3 p.m. with everyone else. On the screen is a list of highlights, a list of activities boys and various members of the family may participate in during their first year at St Gregory's. An annual highlight is the 2-night stay at Narrabeen for the Year 7 camp. There is a moving liturgy and breakfast with mums and sons before Mother's Day, an always competitive boys and blokes trivia night around Father's Day, a fantastic grandparents' day which caters for grandparents of varying ages and degrees of mobility. Everyone is welcome, and I hope to see you all at different times during the year, and please feel free to say hello. Thank you.
Thank you to Mr. Graham and Mr. Wilson and to our Year 7 models. They certainly were confident and wore their uniform with pride. To conclude our evening, I invite Mr. Miller to close.
Firstly, I'd just like to say thank you to those gentlemen who came up and paraded. The fact that they can do that with confidence and get through it is a great credit to them. Also to the two boarders who came up and spoke to you and told you what boarding life was about. The fact they're only in Year 7 and can stand up here with that sort of confidence is something that we work to encourage here at St Greg's, and hopefully your sons one day will also get that opportunity to come up and do it too. But also to the senior boys who are here working behind the scenes, Mitch tonight in chairing our assembly, appreciate what he's been doing. But also we've got a number of staff here tonight and they've made the effort to be here for you, so I'm appreciative of that. You've already seen the number of staff on stage, but also down the back I've got Mr Vetrano, who's our pastoral care coordinator, and further down the back I have Mrs Dean in black and white. I've got a name tag so you'll be able to work it out from that. Parent liaison. Also Mrs Stott right down the back, she's in charge of enrolments, but next year she will be still in charge of enrolments, but also my PA. And over on the other side in the Navy is Mrs Lanrigan. Mrs Lanrigan's the manager of the Noon uniform shop. And Noon have been we outsourced the uniform shop a couple of years ago and we've been very pleased with it. Her attention to service and detail is second to none, and some of you might have already encountered the appointments for getting a uniform done. They are very obliging with that and they're all here tonight for you. So if you've got any questions of any of those people, that's what they're here for. Also the packs, as Mr Wilson said, they're down there for you. They're in alphabetical order to make it easy. I think it's A to K on that side and L to Z on the other side, so you can work that out as you go. The other thing I would say to you though, to remember that anything we say we're going to do, we usually follow through on it. Now, number one is we have meetings. They usually start at 7:30 and I tend to start them on the dot. I have respect for the people who make the time and the effort to get here on time, and I think it's only fair to them that we do start on time. They usually only go for an hour. I'm doing really well tonight. With our co-curricular nights, I'll go for an hour and a half, but a normal meeting is an hour, pretty much guaranteed. And tonight's no exception, I've noticed, so that's good news. Just with tomorrow, as Mr Wilson said, please feel free to come, feel safe, feel confident, gentlemen. Don't worry about those exams, that's just something to help guide us, and it's not the only thing we use to guide where we're going to place you in classes as well. And also, I will ask you about that story, the attitude, commitment and effort. Hopefully you've been listening. So I'll leave you at that, but thank you very much for coming, and also thank you to those people who have travelled so far to be with us tonight as well, because I know a number of boarding families are here. So thanks very much, but you can pick up those packets on the way out tonight. Thanks very much.